With YouTube demonetizing independent media, please consider becoming a patron today for just $1 per month. Link below. Hey, what's going on, everyone? My name is Matt Jarbo. This is $3 Theater, and welcome to RT Recap, a series where I take a look at Rotten Tomatoes scores of new and upcoming films in order to kind of analyze the positive and the negative, to let the average, to kind of look at it from the average moviegoer's perspective, or to give them maybe a better fundamental understanding of what they could be looking into. I personally do not love to use Rotten Tomatoes as the be-all, end-all, but I think this is a good series for trying to figure out maybe what lies in the middle. So Avengers Infinity War just had its review embargo lifted an hour ago, and as we can see here, it's sitting at 89%. Granted, this is going to end up being certified fresh, but 89%? 89%? The hype surrounding this movie in the comments I saw on Twitter last night should have put this movie at 124%. Easy. Right? I mean, anything less than 200% love is just, you know, we're talking like ejaculation out eyeballs type stuff here. It just feels like it's like there's a problem here. And this is obviously before the Down with Disney and its fanboys alt-right group decides to come in to try to tweak the audience score here. This is just the reviewers. Now, if you don't know the plot of the Avengers Infinity War, let's take a quick look here. So it says an unprecedented cinematic journey 10 years in the making and spanning the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. Marvel Studios' Avengers Infinity War brings to the screen the ultimate deadliest showdown of all time. The Avengers and their superhero allies must be willing to sacrifice all in an attempt to defeat the powerful Thanos before his blitz of devastation and ruin puts an end to the universe. I am hyped. I have been waiting for this for 10 years. Now, before we go into the rotten and the fresh reviews, because I always like to do 5 fresh and 5 rotten, I want to just reiterate that these are probably going to not be filled with spoilers, but they could have 1 or 2 things in there that you don't want to deal with. And for that, I would say run now. You've been warned. So jump over here to the fresh ratings. We see here, we got Rafer Guzman from Newsday saying a superhero space opera that will knock you off your feet and quite possibly bring a lump to your throat. Original score 3.5 out of 4. So what this tells me is that they are fully aware that this is a big event film, a big space opera type thing like Star Wars. However, that does lead us to believe that a lot of this movie will take place in space. That a good amount of this will take place in space. We know that at the end of Thor Ragnarok, Thanos shows up. We know that in the trailer for Infinity War that there's Loki holding the Tesseract. And it's been presumed that that's when Loki gets got. We've heard that. So that's been the rumor floating around right now. So that could be something that does leave a lump in your throat, or who else might in fact get the boot by the end of the film. Now, Owen Gleiberman from Variety here says, if for decades the metaphor for propulsive blockbuster filmmaking was the ride, then watching Avengers Infinity War is like going to a theme park and taking 3 spins on every ride there. Damn. That is a glowing review. Equating it to taking a theme park ride 3 times on every ride there, that makes sense. I get that. The thrill of going in and just having a hell of a time all day and you never want to get off. That to me is actually a really good sign. Now, Matt Singer here from Screen Crush here says, if you're a fan of these characters and you're invested in their fates, there are plenty of thrills, but you better be really invested. Giving it a 6 out of 10. Interesting. Interesting that he gives it a 6 out of 10, but it's still considered fresh. I would probably put that more like in the middle ground, but of course they only have the metric of rotten or fresh, so that's what they assign it to. Now, this again is kind of the thing we need to look at. We're 19 movies into this franchise by the time this movie comes out in a couple days. 19 movies in. You've been invested, if you're like me. You've been invested in these films since the first week of May 2008, going to the midnight showing of Iron Man and getting to see the start of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, of course, followed by the Incredible Hulk a little over a month later, and then of course waiting about 2 years for Iron Man 2, and then so on and so forth. But I've been invested in these characters now for a decade. And at no point do I feel bad about admitting that. At no point do I feel like I should never talk about that. I absolutely should. I love these movies. I go see them, midnight shows. I'm going this Thursday. I'm excited. But yeah, I can understand that it's not for everyone. And that maybe the storytelling elements of it have gotten stale over the years. I get that too. But you're invested in the characters. It's like watching a soap opera where your favorite characters could be taken out. Now, Kalia Hale Stern from the Mary Sue here says, I've been writing about Infinity War for the better part of a year, but I was not prepared for what it had in store. I stared at it slack-jawed for the last 10 minutes, astonished at the places where Marvel took this film. Now, I don't quite know what any of that means, because that would be going into spoiler territory. But I'm curious to know more, because she sat there slack-jawed for the last 10 minutes, astonished at the places where Marvel took this film. Now, what that does kind of tell me is that there's going to be a fair amount with time travel. That's been my prediction. There was a couple set photos showing Thor and Loki from the end of Avengers when they were at the park before going back to Asgard. So obviously the time stone's going to come into effect here, and I think that's going to be something. Either it's going to be a time jump, a going back, or a flashback, or something along those lines. There's definitely that. And so I'm wondering if that has something to do with it, if they're running back through previous films, because Kevin Feige did say that all previous plot threads, plot holes, or whatever that they've never really kind of touched upon are going to be wrapped up in these two films. He also said that this is effectively the end of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so they are wrapping up the first 10 years. I'm wondering if that might have something to do with it. Now, finally here, Todd McCarthy from Hollywood Reporter says, with so many ingredients to stir into this overflowing pot, you have to hand it to two experienced teams of Marvel collaborators who had a feel for how to pull this magnum opus off. And that is very true. This has, in fact, been a labor of love, not just for Kevin Feige, but you've got the Russo bros, you've got James Gunn, you've got Ryan Coogler, you know, you've got the teams behind the franchises coming in here. I think John Daly, even from Spider-Man Homecoming, had some input. They went and worked with these teams. You had the writers coming on in, working with, I mean, like, this has been a huge, huge, huge collaboration. And it's one that Hollywood hasn't seen before, which is probably why people are so excited. They want to see if this plays off. I'm pretty sure DC is watching this right now with bated breath, like, if they pull this shit off, how do we screw up Justice League so bad? But those are the top positive reviews. The glowing reviews, well, for the most part, the 6 out of 10 one's a little bit telling, but let's jump over to the rotten, because let's see what the negative parts of the movie are. Okay, so quick little thing. Apparently, there's only one rotten review, but let's take a look at the one rotten review here. It said that there were 5, but there's apparently only one. And this is coming from Keith Ulrich from Slant Magazine, who I'm assuming is going to be getting a lot of really negative tweets by the end of the day. It says, throughout the film, the rapidity of dialogue and drama is mistaken for actual rhythm, of which directors Anthony and Joe Russo have one mode: pedal to the metal pandemonium. I get it. Okay, I get it. So let's kind of just analyze even that, just that snippet, for the person who might be trying to understand maybe what they mean. This is just, again, my interpretation and whatnot. So the rapidity of dialogue and drama is mistaken for actual rhythm. So there's going to be a lot of fast-talking dialogue, obviously, between Chris Pratt, Tom Holland, and Robert Downey Jr., as well as, you know, everyone else they've got to put in there. So a lot of dialogue. And the drama is going to be very probably rapid-paced, where we're maybe not going to have a lot of time to breathe as things start to progress. I mean, we know characters are going to die, and that's probably going to be something that's meant to be dramatic, right? But depending on how it's played out, it may not get the right feeling. It may not be able to stop and pause for a moment to let the audience kind of breathe or kind of deal with it. That was one of my things too when it came with Star Wars: The Force Awakens, is Han gets killed, and then it just kind of continues the story, but we don't really get a lot of time to mourn him. That's one of the reasons why I was frustrated that the funeral scene for Han was not at the beginning of The Last Jedi. However, it was in fact in the book. Now, it says here, Joe and Anthony Russo have one mode: pedal to the metal pandemonium. And again, that kind of makes sense for what they have to do here. We're talking, this is their third Marvel film, fourth by the end of Avengers 4. They're trying to fit in a massive story that encompasses 60 characters, 2.5 hours. The next movie they say is going to be longer, probably 2:45, near 3, which is going to be fine for Marvel. They ain't going to care. They ain't going to force it down to freaking 2 hours. Thanks a lot, DC, right? You know, and so there's that. But they've got to keep it flowing. They've got to keep it moving. This is Thanos. This is going to be the end of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This is a guy that doesn't, and this is where it's probably going to be a very large critical point, even for me, is going to be the whole idea there of the lack of exposition on why I should give a fuck about Thanos. right? Like, I know who he is from the comics. I know who he is from Guardians of the Galaxy. I know who he is from some little things teased here and there. And I know about the Soul Stones or I know about the Infinity Stones, right? I get all that. But as far as this being a culmination of the 10 years, 19 films, 21 by the time or 22 by the time it's all said and done next year, we've never been given the proper exposition as to why we should give a shit or fear Thanos, right? We've never been given that. So that is clearly probably going to make itself known in this one, where there's going to be some problems and probably some issues narratively in terms of the rapid exposition of why we should care. Because there's a couple little screenshots I've seen floating around right now talking about Robert Downey Jr., learning about the character, learning about Thanos and whatnot. They sit him down and explain Thanos to him. And it's like, that's going to be explaining it to us, the audience, obviously, giving us a refresher course about who Thanos is. And that is probably one of the biggest letdowns that they've done. That's probably one of the biggest screw ups that Marvel has made. Now, they did say, and as I pointed out earlier in this recap, is that they are going to tie up everything over the course of from the past 10 years. So it's entirely possible that this is going to be somewhat fixed. However, I don't see it happening, at least not in the way that's going to be meaningful and make me go, oh, okay, I was wrong. I don't see that happening. But ultimately, I do feel like that is going to be like the only real downside to the movie. That's going to be the only real downside to Avengers Infinity War, is that one thing. Now, granted, it deals with the big bad. It deals with the big villain over the course of the first 10 years. And that is a problem. But at the same time, the positive reviews tell us a lot. The negative review does tell us something, and I think ultimately we're going to be very happy with what we see, at least for the most part. But that being said, I am curious to know your guys' thoughts about this. Let me know in the comments below. My name is Matt Jarbo. This has been 3 Buck Theater. If you haven't already, please thumbs up the video, subscribe to the channel, check back often for more content from me. If you want to support the channel, the best way is through Patreon. And if you want to see more, you can do so right now.